All right. I'm Justin Early. I'm running for Congress in Texas 31st District, and we have here
Penny Coates.
Penny Coates. Anything else you want to tell us about yourself? Anything you want everybody to know, or no?
No.
Okay. So let's start right off the bat. So my whole purpose in running is to support working families. I literally got to a point where I said people are working too damn hard for what they're getting, and why are we not supporting working families? And then we talk about working families of all the things that they need, such as food, housing, healthcare, and a way to afford themselves a job so that they can retire and go, vacation, all the things that people dream to do. With that, though, we get into specifics of how we get things done and what is needed. But we offered this series called Conversations That Count, and you signed up to, do it. So what would you like to know, first off, about me? How would you like the conversation to go? This is your chance to talk with me. So let's go.
How would you handle constituents? Look at Carter, not done town hall in 20 years.
Yeah.
Doesn't speak to constituents. Can't ever get any information from him on the phone.
Right.
And just need somebody to actually listen.
Absolutely. I believe in true representative government, and I joke all the time that I passed social studies class and I had learned what the House of Representatives is supposed to do for us. But number one is we absolutely need to have town halls because that is the way to connect back to the people. I understand it's really difficult for 766,000 people to get into one room, but you at least need to have people the opportunity to come and speak. So as soon as I'm elected, every single bill that comes in front of me, I want to bring that back to the constituents of the area because I work for Central Texas. So here's all the bills that we currently have to vote on. Here's all the bills that we're talking about, and here's how I'm going to vote on it, so that we understand that I don't work for a party. I work for the people. The second thing is that once a bill has been voted on, you should know why I voted that way on a bill. And so in order to come back and say, here's clearly articulate, here's what the bill said, here's why I signed on to it, here's what I hope to do for working families in Central Texas, that is, to me, is true representative government. And I think the third part of this is really just dissemination of information as much as you possibly can. Everybody loves short form video. Everybody loves TikToks and things of that nature. I think those are great, but you also need to have some long form conversations as well, where you can read, here's the things that are going on. So I really hope to have, I don't know if a diary or journal is the appropriate term for it, but here's what's going on in the life of Congress. So here's the bills coming up, here's what we're constantly doing, and you're not thinking I'm off and vacationing somewhere. That's what I want to do for the constituents.
Yeah. Press releases are a big thing. Like as of right now, his last press release is from end of June. A lot has happened.
A lot has happened since June, yes.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And a press release doesn't even it just says this has been done. That's a statement of fact.
Yeah.
Not a conversation with here's why we did these things and here's how it helps Central Texans. Yeah. So
I think town halls are a very important thing to have and do it constantly.
Absolutely.
And go to different parts of the district. That way people can get out.
Absolutely.
I know people that try calling his office, like his district office, doesn't ever answer. You can only get through to his DC office, and a lot of those staffers, if they can tell that you didn't vote for him, they're gonna ignore you.
That's not true representative government. I understand that you can't take everybody's call, but you got to talk to people, and you have to at least take an email, respond to an email, and that's why you have staffers. And so if you've been calling constantly, at some point you should be bumped up to the list and actually have a conversation with your representative. I completely agree with you that it's not how our government should run, or maybe not even meant to be ran.
Yeah. Like I make calls on the daily. I call several representatives. I just started recording my calls and stuff, and just trying to get more people to interact with their representatives and stuff.
Yeah. One thing I tell people is that you may not think about politics, but politics thinks about you. And from the local level up to the federal level, all of these conversations that are happening, they write these policies. And another thing I say is every policy, every page, every paragraph, every word, every letter has to deal with people. And if you're not talking to the people, what are we writing policies for? Yeah. So what are some things that you call John Carter's office about to communicate about?
I've done town halls. I've done him not doing anything about his oath. We're watching fascists take over the country.
Yes.
Plain and clear, we're watching freedom of speech being taken away. We're watching U.S. military being sicked on U.S. citizens.
U.S. citizens, which is actually against the law.
Yeah.
So, it makes me scared on the inside, but at the same time, it gives me the energy or the fight in order to change it and flip that around and make sure we're actually doing what we need to do for working families. So, what would you like to see other than more town halls, or any other ideas that you have that should be echoed out?
This is more on the state level, but voting. Our state's voter suppressed.
Absolutely.
Gerrymandered. Because these politicians think, oh, the voters don't choose us, we choose our voters, and that's not how it should work.
Not at all.
I think politicians should be, in a sense, scared of their voters, and make sure that they're answering.
Yes.
And just making sure that the policies that they're putting forth benefit their people.
Absolutely.
I'm also tired of, because I call a lot of representatives, not just Carter. I'm tired of representatives that are like, oh, you're not from my district, I'm just going to ignore you. Because I'm like, you're putting forth policies that affect everybody.
Correct.
And so you should have to answer to everybody. Yes, you need to answer to your constituents, but also answer to everybody else, especially when you're making policies that affect everybody.
I completely agree. Where we have, strong representation, like Joaquin Castro, he has visited many people outside of his district. He communicates with lots of people. On the local level, there's a guy who's on city council in place 2. His name is Louis Minor. He loves talking to anybody who needs to talk to him. He's seen as the only Democrat who's actually running in Killeen, who's actually in Killeen, and he does a great job at what he does. I'm sorry, he's a county commissioner. And he is the only Democrat doing that job. So he will take any Democrats, questions or answers, or anybody's questions and answers really, in order to say, here's how we can best affect change. But on your first statement of voting being more of a state level, it is a state level thing. But if we had federal rules and laws that actually mandated like gerrymandering, the Democrats had made a, illegal gerrymandering rule, a rule to make gerrymander illegally, and not a single Republican signed on with it. Why? And honestly, it would help them if their concern is voting suppression, wrong people voting, then let's make a bill that says, hey, it's illegal to gerrymander, and have independent parties draw the maps. That way the politicians aren't picking their voters, the voters are picking their politicians.
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy that we're doing this whole mid-decade redistricting.
Yeah.
And it's because they know they're going to lose. Like, run on policies that are going to get you elected again. Like,
well, that's the only reason to gerrymander is when your policies are not working for people.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, let's slice this up so that we can stay in power. I read that our official term of our government today is called a competitive authoritarianism, where it has semblances of democracy, where we vote on certain things, but the party in power continues to make things different in order to keep themselves in power. Yeah. And that is absolutely what we're doing. The fascism is absolutely happening because we see it every day, but they are maintaining authoritarianism as best they can.
Yeah. I think also we need term limits. Some of these people are too old. That's why we've had people in Congress die so many times this year, and we're losing, seats because the establishment and the old people don't know when it's their time to say, okay, let's pass it on to the next generation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm mad at Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She should have moved on and passed the baton, but she wanted to do it on her own terms, and then she couldn't outlast,
Yeah.
So, yeah. I will disagree with you on term limits, though, only because I think a term limit sets a hard rule. But if we have cognicy test or health test or something where it's not necessarily, hey, you serve, 3 terms, 6 terms, whatever, and you're out, because at some point you're gaining momentum and you're actually making positive change. Now we're swapping people out before they actually affect change. I think if you are not able to do the job, if you can't physically do the job, then yes, you should not be allowed to be back on the ballot. And that's where I disagree with the term limits, but I do believe in some sort of cognitive test, some sort of like a driver's test, for politicians, something we can do in order to do that. But that's the only difference I have with term limits.
Yeah, fair. Literally just knowing the Constitution would probably
Would
be
probably
a
help.
great one.
Yeah.
Because it seems a lot of these politicians don't know anything.
No.
Another thing that I see that I get frustrated a lot with is everybody taking PAC money and corporate money and stuff, and it makes it go to where now we don't care about our voters, we care about what
PAC gives us money.
Yeah.
Citizens United really hurt politics as a whole. That's dark money, that's corporate money, that really hurt politics. I, as a candidate, I am not going to take any corporate money. I will take PACs of things that I support, such as Vote Vets, the Collective PAC. They support Black and minority candidates to be put up there, and they give assistance to that, but they don't tell you what to do. I refuse to do or take any money where they tell me what I have to do or not do. I will not take APAC money because of the outcomes of that has happened before. If we can't allow me to do the job to work for Central Texans, then I cannot accept your dollars. I want to only work for Central Texans.
Okay. That's something. APAC is a big one right now.
It is a big one.
Like Jeffries, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like he's letting APAC tell him what to do and stuff, and that's just not okay. He's not even listening to his own constituents.
Right.
And he's supposed to be a leader.
Right.
Like right now, he's yet to endorse Zohran Mamdani, who like overwhelmingly won that primary.
The primary, yes. And he's a phenomenal candidate. And if the people of New York want him,
yeah,
why not?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
Yeah, no, you're good. But it's crazy. Like, he keeps going, oh, well, we're looking at doing it this weekend, and it's like that election's less than 2 months away. If you don't do it now, you're going to get fired in a primary. And I can't wait to see you primaried because you don't want to listen to your voters. Another thing that happened was when AOC was supposed to get that position where she was supposed to be some sort of leader on, I think, the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. We said we wanted AOC, and he gave the person, the 70-year-old man with cancer, and
who passed away. Right.
Yeah, and it's like, and this is why we said we wanted somebody younger that is actually listening to us.
Yes.
Somebody that's doing her job. I don't know if you've seen like her door and stuff. She has just a whole bunch of sticky notes from constituents and people that go and visit her.
That's awesome.
And like everybody else, you'll see just normal door, and it's like, yeah, you can tell who people like.
Who's support? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and who's doing their job correctly.
Yeah. I hope to earn the kind of support and recognition for that because I want to work for the people, not for corporate PACs or, corporations, because I really truly feel that billionaires have way too much money. I think having billionaires is a failure on our society. We're not taking care of everybody who needs the help. Yeah. But at the same time, what do we do to get them to help everyone else? And that's where I want to help to support. Make policies that make more sense for everybody else. We live out, you're out here in the rural area or more rural area of Texas, and I'd love to get what I call flip the investment, where we have a lot of investment in huge companies and corporations in Austin and in that area, but we should actually spurn businesses here in the rural areas. So give more grants to small businesses to hire people, to start opportunities, and to grow things out here where we are.
Yeah. Small businesses need the help and stuff, and you see, I've seen recently there's somebody in Congress, I can't think of who it is, but he's on a committee that's supposed to be helping small businesses and stuff, but he makes money on small businesses failing. And it's crazy. It's like you're supposed to be doing this thing to help your constituents and help the people out, and you're making money on them failing.
Yeah, I'm speechless, first off. Second off, have you seen The Big Short?
Which one?
The Big Short. It's called The Big Short. And it's got, I can't remember who's in it. It's a movie.
Okay.
Steve Carell. Anyway, it's about the housing market crash and how some people made a boatload of money betting on the housing market crashing. And at one point, I believe it's Brad Pitt's character, when the characters who made the money on the stock market crashing, he said, hey, you just bet on America losing and failing, right? And so it's like it kind of made you think, or should we be celebrating this? Should we be happy for these guys making this money? Short answer is no, right? But if people are making out on the failure of America, that should be wrong, especially if your oath is to work for Americans. That's very backwards.
Yeah. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why you would do that. It's crazy.
It is crazy. Anything else you want to talk about? Anything else that you want to bring up?
Reproductive rights. That's a big one right now.
That's a huge one.
You see these men, old men, making policies about women's bodies and stuff, and like, should not be happening.
Not in the slightest. You know, the number one thing I think we should understand is that no doctor's office is big enough for a woman, her doctor, and the entire state of Texas or the entire U.S. government.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason for that to be there. I'm not an expert in women's healthcare issues, so I believe the woman and the doctor and whoever's God, whatever God they have, that's between the three of them.
Yeah.
We should allow healthcare and support for women, 100%, because we have doctors today who are confused about helping people, giving them life-saving care, depending on the laws that are actually happening, that are on the books today. We absolutely need to change that to make doctors be able to do what they need to do, women to make their own decisions, have autonomy of their own bodies, and take the U.S. government out of there. The last point I'll make on this is, like, we're Texans, right? Like, we're supposed to be independent, you know, and that just doesn't sound very Texan to me, to be like, I'm going to tell you what to do with your body. That's the opposite of Texan.
Yeah, Texas seems to say they want small government and then want to do everything in their power to like women's reproductive rights, marijuana, everything.
I read a book that basically, have you ever read The New Jim Crow by Isabel Wilkerson?
No.
It's a pretty good book, and it talks about how we left Jim Crow and it evolved and changed to what we have today, which is like the prison industrial complex, where just everybody's going to prison. And in that, the change and on the war on drugs went from drugs use used to be, hey, it's a medical issue, you know, take care of yourself, blah, 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 to being the government now needs to know exactly what you're doing in your house. And that's where marijuana got its huge spike in, like, you know, you got $5 worth of marijuana, now you're going to jail for 30 years, you know, or 20 years. Yeah. And my big thing on marijuana laws is that we have people today who are in prison for marijuana offenses, yet you have companies making $1 billion selling the exact same thing. And that doesn't sound even and fair to me. That doesn't sound just at all.
Yeah. I don't like the smell of marijuana. It smells terrible to me, but like, I genuinely could not care less if people want to smoke.
Yeah.
Like, why are we sending people to prison
for that?
For it.
Right.
Like, especially when there are other states that you can go and do it just fine. I think it's no different than like alcohol.
Absolutely.
Like,
and I love that sentiment that you have, because a lot of people feel like if you support marijuana rights, or you support those things, then you have to be some stoner on the couch and, you know, whatever else. You can be both. You can actually be a supporter of something and not, not use it yourself. Yeah.
Like, it's actually doing more harm by making it illegal, because people are going to find ways to get it anyways, and it might be an unsafe way, versus if you just have it to where people can buy it, it's going to be no different than like cigarettes.
And we have a whole, and even simply Texas, Colorado has entire industries built around selling it. So you can't say it doesn't work or it's horrible if we have an entire state that's doing it exactly. So we can make a federal rule to make it not confusing and basically tax it as you tax everything else and then move on. Yeah. The last part of this is, I think way too many dollars from the federal government goes into marijuana prevention or marijuana, prohibition. And now that people are afraid that those dollars are going to go somewhere else or not come to them. But we can take those same dollars on prohibition and use them for mental health care, use them for something else. We don't have to, take the money away. Let's just use it for something that helps people more.
Yeah. Another big thing, gun violence. Like, gun violence is very big. We've been doing this thing for the last 30 years. And it seems Republicans all the time it's the people doing it. It's not the gun and stuff. And it's like, okay, fund mental health then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, we aren't going to do that either. So what would you do on this scenario?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a gun owner. I'm a veteran. I've been in the military, so I've shot weapons of war, and I frankly do not believe that citizens should have weapons of war. There are certain guns and certain things, and we can get into specifics. People like this rifle or that rifle, that handgun, whatever. Nobody should have a rocket launcher or grenade launcher or anything like that. That's silliness, and that's weapons of war. But in order to make sure that healthy people, right-minded people, have guns or getting guns, you should absolutely have background checks, universal background checks across the entire United States. Prohibition, or not prohibition, but making it a little bit more difficult to get a gun does not mean I'm restricting your Second Amendment rights. And so communicating with them saying we need to do more to make sure that the person who's getting the weapon is not killing somebody else. And I think us putting the onus on the beginning of that, saying, oh, we can't do anything, or Republicans or people, is ignoring the human being in the end who actually might lose their life.
I think this last week or the week before, there were Republicans in Congress throwing a fit and stuff when somebody said, all right, let's do something with the whole Charlie Kirk incident. And it sucks that incident overshadowed the school shooting in Colorado that
Same day, yes.
Yeah. And so Dems were like, okay, somebody on y'all's side got shot. That's terrible. What are we going to do?
About it.
And Republicans just went, now's not the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's also crazy how I think the DOJ recently removed an article that showed that gun violence generally happens more on the right and stuff.
Yes, they deleted their own article that did not go against the narrative of the president.
Yeah, and I think it's crazy how certain Republican members of Congress were so quick to say it's somebody on the left, it's somebody on the left, when there was no proof of that. And then they just were like, political violence is wrong and stuff. Meanwhile, they didn't condemn what happened in June with Melissa and Mark Hortman.
Not at all. Right.
They made jokes about political violence in the past. The president pardoned the January 6ers and stuff. And they're just being hypocrites.
Absolutely. It is hypocritical. I will say the number one thing I think is important is that you are completely aware of these things, because they are lying to us every single day.
Yeah.
And they always want to do whataboutism, right? That seems to be taking over the political or the news cycle. And what about this or what about that? If we focus on the facts that somebody died, somebody was shot, and they had easy access to weapons, and it was in a state that was very pro-gun, that was very pro-Republican, that was very pro-Charlie Kirk and everything that's going on with him, and then that happened there. Now to take that same thing and stamp down free speech, talking about what can we do about today, even simply speaking about it in certain areas can get you fired.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that they're trying to make it so it's difficult for us to communicate openly. So when you learn something, you absolutely should communicate about it, and you should continue to talk about it. So I appreciate your knowledge on that.
Yeah. I think Vance did, I guess, a podcast the other day where he was like, go report these people. And it's like, okay, so where was that energy when people were making fun of Paul Pelosi?
Yeah, exactly.
All of the others attacks that we've seen and stuff. It's like, if you're going to have that energy, have that energy. Also, Pam Bondi, hate speech. She's like,
what is hate speech? Yeah.
And then Trump was like, well, you're being mean to me, so that's hate speech and stuff, and we're going to go after you now.
Right.
And it's like, dude, you can't do that.
You can't do that, right? What is the definition of that, and why are you, targeting certain people, when at the same time, that is the rhetoric that he uses as well.
Yeah.
And so why do you think these things are happening? Let's get there. Why do you think these things are happening?
He's spread a lot of, he does a lot of talk of far left lunatics and stuff, and praises violence and stuff. Look at Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk thought gun violence was, necessary, worth it and stuff. And they're constantly spreading rhetoric about people that they don't even know, they don't have any facts to prove it and stuff, and then go, well, you're calling me a fascist. Well, you're doing fascist things.
Right. I mean, there is no Antifa. It's just anti-fascism. And so people who stand up to fascism, but that's what we're doing. That's not what we are doing. That's what we're doing as a country.
Yeah.
And that's the direction we're going. But do you have a reason of why these things are happening?
Just his rhetoric, honestly.
Yeah. I think the purpose and the goal is to distract us and to exhaust us.
There's that too. I think he's trying to distract from the Epstein files.
Sure, yeah. I think that's part of the distraction. But I also think it's a part of the distraction, like you said, voting. They're making it harder to vote. Yeah. They're trying to make it so he's been openly talking about a third term, right? Where do we have third terms? We don't have a third term for president. You get 2 terms and you're done. Yeah. And so I think a lot of these things really focus on the distraction of what they are really trying to do, and we probably won't find out until it actually happens. So sending the National Guard into cities, blowing up boats from Venezuelan boats, all these things cannot be a thought of a rational republic. There has to be some other reason to do these things.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's Project 2025. Like, they've already done, I think, over half of it by now. They've already implemented the agenda. You have Stephen Miller, who's threatening people all the time, Pam Bondi and stuff.
Yeah.
You have them praising concentration camps and then trying to gaslight us, telling us that Alligator Alcatraz isn't a concentration camp. Right. Even when you look at the direct definition and it's checkmark. I think a couple months ago, I had called the representative Diaz-Balart, whose district Alligator Alcatraz is in, and then they were just trying to keep gaslighting me, saying, oh no, it's not a concentration camp, it's just like a regular detention center and stuff. And it's like, okay, then why are they only being fed once a day and their food has maggots, they aren't getting showers, like nobody belongs in those conditions.
It's not humane, right?
Yeah.
And we are a country set on principles to be humane to everyone.
They don't even get due process and stuff.
No due process.
No due process, no attorneys going in and stuff.
Right.
And they're just trying to hide it. Like, they sell merch for people to get eaten by alligators. They thought that was a great idea to sell merch for. And
it does not sound like the America that I want, nor did I grow up with, nor did I defend my country for. So I appreciate you bringing light to these things. I mean, I know of them as well, but people openly talking about it is absolutely what needs to happen. We actually were down at the Oktoberfest here, and we were talking to people and interviewing them as well. And one woman had said, literally, she's just afraid to speak out. She's afraid to tell people that she likes democratic values and she's a Democrat because she's afraid of what will happen to her. So thank you for your bravery to talk about it, because it needs to be spoken about.
Yeah. I would rather, fight and not be silent and stuff. I don't want to be remembered as somebody that was silent.
Agreed.
Like, I think it's better to die on your feet than live on your knees.
Ooh, that's great. Yep.
So,
oh, I appreciate that. That's wonderful. Any other questions you have? Any other things you want to cover?
Healthcare, insurance, not great right now. Insurance rates are going up. Everything's...
I would love for somebody to explain to me the need for insurance, because healthcare is not insurance. The doctor and the patient, but somehow in the middle we have healthcare insurance. We have insurance, and so unless they're a pass-through for money, which that's what it looks like, why are they there, right? We of course need to pay the doctors, and we need to make sure that people get taken care of. So I absolutely advocate for a universal healthcare. Whatever direction we go with that, Medicare for all. Whatever direction we gotta go to make sure that whenever you need a doctor, you go and get one. That's what I support.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know people that won't go to the doctor and stuff because they're like, insurance is only going to cover so much, and I can't afford it.
Yeah. That's glasses. That's like eye doctor, dentist, hearing aids, all those things that people need in order to be functioning members of society. But now we make it too expensive for them to be a functioning member of society, and then we make fun of them to say you can't be a functioning member of society. Like it doesn't make sense to me. We need to support people in order to do things. I think the reason people go to work is to feed their families and to make sure they're not sick and whatever, they're not getting sick or they're being taken care of when they're sick. And we actually met a man last night in Killeen as well. He was a bartender, and he had stated that he has congestive heart failure, and he's trying to get on Social Security, and he can't get on Social Security, but he has no health insurance either because it's too expensive. But it's like he only had health insurance when he had a job, and his job required him to have a healthy heart, but now his heart is not healthy, so he can't work. So because he can't work, he can't get health insurance.
Yeah.
So are we valuing the human being, or are we valuing the labor that he can actually give us? And I think we need to get away from this labor-driven healthcare.
Yeah. Speaking of labor, minimum wage, that's not changed
since the 90s,
something like that.
Something like that. We had there's a saying, people say $15 an hour, it needs to be done. But the Economic Policy Institute had stated if we don't move up to like $17, $19 an hour by 2030, we're going to have a collapse in our economic system. So we keep saying $15 as a minimum. We need to keep raising that to be whatever is equitable for people to actually have a head start on life. At the same time, you can't afford housing at $15 an hour,
Yeah.
Unless you're rooming with other people and doing that kind of stuff, you can't afford that American dream at minimum wage. And too many companies are used to just paying a minimum wage or paying a little bit in order to get by. And that's not going to fund America.
Yeah. I think I think one of the fastest ways to get minimum wage to move up is make people in Congress work on minimum wage.
Yeah.
I think minimum wage would go up really fast.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't understand why we pay people in Congress for not doing their job.
Yeah.
Like right now, we're almost to a government shutdown because Congress doesn't know how to do their one basic job,
Yeah.
pass spending stuff. And we see them go on recess all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think they're about to start another recess.
Right.
And stuff. And it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's difficult because we have elections every 2 years, but we're not taking them into task in the middle of that to say, are you actually doing the job, performing the job we've asked you to do?
Yeah.
I don't have a solution for that, but I want to make sure we find a way to get it done.
Yeah. I think something needs to happen there.
Yeah. Making them live, if your district, if the average wage in your district is X, if you have to work at that, maybe if that's what you receive in Congress, maybe that's the way to do it, right?
Yeah.
If minimum wage is X across the country, how do we, maybe you got to live on that. And I don't know how that would do it. Because honestly, I'll tell you this. I feel like if we made Congress people work at minimum wage, then they would start selling and buying stocks even more, And if we could prevent them from buying stocks and getting rich off of the job and making sure they're taking care of their people, maybe we solve it that way.
Yeah. I found out recently that Texas, I think, Texas state representatives, I think they just make minimum wage.
I think it's $7,300, it's like $7,500, $8,500, something like that. But then they get per diem, and then it ends up being like, I think $83,000 a year with the per diem. And so it's interesting how they cut it up. Like you have an annual salary of so much money, but every day you're in session, you get another certain dollars per day. So it ends up being more than that. So yeah. Or maybe you do the same thing with Congress, right? If you're not in session, you don't get paid. You get paid by, when you're there doing the work.
I think that would make them figure out how to do their job pretty quickly. The only thing is, I don't think that bill would pass. Because several people would be like, yeah, no, I'm not voting for that.
Well, a couple of Republicans have even said, I don't want to be poor. I wouldn't vote on the no trading stocks.
Yeah.
That would make me poor. And it's like, but what are you there for? Are you there to represent your people, or are you there to get rich?
Yeah, you should not be there to get rich and stuff. No. You should be there because you want to help your people out.
Absolutely.
I think people in Congress make way too much money. Especially since they don't want to do their job,
right,
and stuff. Also, another big thing right now, the discharge petition that's been sitting on the House floor for almost 3 weeks now to release the files.
Okay.
Would you sign it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, I think it's important. A friend of mine actually specifically had said, I don't see why it's a big deal. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's a big deal because we need to know who helped fund this horrible situation that happened at, Epstein's Island.
Yeah.
And if the Epstein files and that leak is the leak that breaks the dam, that, hide, all the dark money, the hidden deals that are going on, if that's the leak that breaks it, let's do it. Let's put everything out in the open. At the very least, the money laundering, the things that were happening as far as the victims were going on, we could talk about that specifically. But if you're so afraid of accountability, why are you doing the job? The job is absolutely supposed to be about accountability.
Yeah. I think it's crazy how we can't even get one more Republican to sign it and stuff. When I've called Carter's office and stuff, I've asked, when is he going to sign it? Why hasn't he signed it? And stuff. And he's like, well, it's up to him if he wants to go sign it. I don't think it's up to him.
Yeah.
I think it's up to the people he represents, and the people he
Correct.
represents are overwhelmingly telling him to go sign it.
Right.
Like, I think that's something that at least voters, like Democrat and Republican and independent voters, can all agree.
Yeah.
We want pedophiles held accountable and
Yes.
stuff.
And they ran on this, anti-pedophile, the Epstein files. They ran on that.
Yeah.
But now they're dialing that back and, coming out of that, or not coming out of that, but like walking that back.
Yeah, and going, okay, we have the files. The files don't exist anymore. It's a hoax. Trump was an FBI informant
Right.
and stuff. And they're walking back on all of these lies and stuff. And it's like, okay, what's your next lie going to be?
Right.
Like, and we've seen somebody on a DOJ hot mic was saying that they're currently removing Republicans and conservatives' names from the list. And it's like, that's not what we need to be doing.
Yeah.
I want everybody on that list held accountable. Left, right, center, I don't care.
I don't care who it is.
Everybody needs to be held accountable.
I think specifically the story you're talking about is the man who went on a date from a woman on Hinge, and then he was bragging about his work in the FBI about the Epstein files, about how they were removing all the Republicans' names. So, I mean, it's embarrassing that our government is openly talking about withholding evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not acceptable, and I would absolutely sign on to that. So
it's also crazy how Ghislaine Maxwell moved from a high security prison in Florida to now she's here in Texas and like a lower security.
Club
and it's
fed,
like,
yeah.
why are we doing that?
And honestly, again, accountability. If somebody would answer the reason why, right? Maybe there's a valid reason. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But at least tell the people why you did this. And now we're going to ignore it and move on from it. So I agree. All of these things need to come out in the opens for us to solve the problems.
Another thing I'm seeing is here recently somebody put forth a bill. I think it was Anna Luna Paulina put forth a bill to put a Charlie Kirk statue and stuff up on the Capitol and stuff.
Here in Texas.
And Republicans still haven't put up the plaque for the January 6th officers that were, killed and stuff. And they've been in office since when that plaque was supposed to go up. The plaque is there. They just have yet to put it up. And they want to talk about being the party of law and order when they did this. And then they also voted for a 34-time convicted felon over a prosecutor. And like,
I would like to get from somebody, why would we put this statue up? Why? Just tell me why. And I don't think anybody's ever given me, nobody's given me an answer. Nobody's answered why. And B, everybody avoids it by saying, what about something over here? What about something over there? And I think your point is exactly right, where we already have a memorial for somebody who did service for this country, but we're not putting that up. But we're talking about somebody who's a celebrity of sorts. I mean,
he was a podcaster.
He was a podcaster. And so just because he was the vice president's friend, he deserves a statue? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't make any sense, especially when Trump after and stuff was like, oh, look at my ballroom that we're building and stuff. Also, why are we building a ballroom in the White House?
I don't know. I think it's a waste of tax dollars. I think whenever they defunded NPR, I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene said we can't afford it, yet we can afford $200 million for a ballroom.
Yeah.
I mean, informing the populace or having a ballroom. I think we want to inform the populace, you know? Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Like,
What are you doing to maintain your sanity?
that's a good question. I don't know.
Okay, we
Like-
got to
like-
do it. Yeah.
Like, genuinely, I think I'm running on like spite and
Mhm.
stuff. Just we need to fight and stuff.
Yes.
Like, one big thing is I'm not gonna let that orange man outlive me. Like, not
That's
gonna
great.
happen.
That's great.
I'm not gonna let him destroy my country.
Mhm.
And like, no, we've seen generations before go through this exact same thing, and they were able to get out of it.
Yes.
And so we're gonna do the same thing.
I completely agree. Our whole story in America is about the fight against the status quo, against the powers that be. That is absolutely what the fight is, and we need to keep that fight. I would offer to you continue to learn and what you're doing, but also communicate with people. Say, hey, look, this is what I've learned. This is what's going on, and we're doing a really big push out here in this county. So Coryell and Bell and everything else to get people to vote, because a lot of people either don't understand that they don't understand how to get registered to vote. So we became VDRs in order to do that, and then get people out to vote to say, hey, look, you need to vote in the right people to make the changes that you want to see. You got to be the change you want to be.
Yeah, I think Texas,
Be the change you want to see.
big thing is Republicans in Texas are always like, we're going to fix the problems. We're going to fix the problems. We're going to fix the problems. And it's like, you've been in for 30 years. So I think at this point, the problems are yours.
Yes.
And you're getting too comfortable. You think you don't have to go out and win re-elections and stuff. Like Greg Abbott, when we were doing the gerrymandering scheme and stuff, he kept saying, we're going to hold special elections, you know, as long as it takes, and stuff, even going into like 2027 and stuff. And it's like, dude, you have a election campaign that you have to run.
Yeah.
And right now, you're not doing so well. Like, his win percentage has constantly
Continually gone down.
yeah, and stuff. And it's like, you're about to lose, and it's going to be your own fault because you aren't listening to your constituents
Yeah.
and stuff. I can almost never get a hold of Greg Abbott's office.
Yeah.
Same with like John Cornyn.
Mhm.
I can't get a hold of his office. Ted Cruz is hit or miss and stuff. And it's crazy.
Who do you think should be at the top of the ticket as far as the governor's race goes? We have Tallarico and Allred, and we have Terry Virts running for senator. Who do you think should be at the top of the ticket for governor?
As of right now, the only person that I know is Bobby Cole.
Bobby Cole is running.
That's the only one I know running for governor. I'm sure there'll probably be more people and stuff.
I mean, we're kind of running out of time, though. So
Yeah, I don't know if I wish Tallarico went Senate or governor route. But I think since he chose Senate, I'm going to have to go Tallarico on Senate
Okay.
and stuff, because I think Tallarico has the best chance at winning, especially if the nominee is Ken Paxton, because Ken Paxton is showing to be winning the Republican primary, but like, he's not popular with Republicans.
Right.
He was almost impeached by Republicans.
He should have been in.
Yeah.
He should have been.
And then you have the situation with his wife right now.
Mhm.
And so people are divided on his party. And I know Tallarico is a Dem that some independents and Republicans are like, okay, I could vote for this guy. This guy, you know, seems like he's great and would actually care and stuff. So
Agreed. I'm really hoping that we get the more people who actually come out to vote or come out to run. Shows a strong democracy, right?
Yeah.
That shows people who are actually willing to put their name out there and do something and get something done. Super excited about our Senate candidates. Super excited about Bobby Cole. I really wanted them to do great because as a down ballot candidate, you know, because running for Congress, I'm considered a down ballot candidate. We need to have a strong party in order to make the changes we need to make.
Yeah.
So
I think Tallarico, at least for Senate, has the best shot.
Yeah.
I like he might be able to win. I don't think Allred could pull it off.
Right.
Like Allred was, I think, not as resonating. Like I think if you lose to Ted Cruz,
But Beto lost to Ted Cruz too.
I mean fair, but I think Beto's margin was like the closest margin in quite a while. So
yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes. I want to support them either way.
yeah.
I've got a relationship with Tallarico. I've been communicating with Terry Virts to, have a joint conversation with veterans about how veterans need to get out and vote more. I'm excited for our democracy to do better, do more, because I think if people are seeing that we are actually trying to do something, things will change.
Yeah, I'm tired of Texas being considered a red state and stuff when, you have more people here that voted for Harris than I think in like New York and stuff.
Wow.
And we're often overlooked. And then like with the flooding and stuff, why on earth did we do a gerrymandering session before we cared about the flooding and stuff?
And the rhetoric that they put out about they were using the flooding as the reason for it, but the actual, when they started going down to business, it was all about gerrymandering. So, yeah. Anything else you want to discuss? We're getting short on time here, and we're also getting short on light.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much.